Welcome. It's good to be here today. It is still the PSF edition of the 60th Virtual Convention of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. And we're here today to talk about a very important topic, sexual abuse. And with me is Ife, Toby, and our guest, Dr. Timi Oyebode, the lead counselor of the Attitude Development International. That's an auspice for counseling, psychotherapy, and every help that we need. It's going to be a wonderful time, and I'm sure you'll be blessed. So, to kick this off, we'll just go ahead into the full discussion. But if you have questions along the line, on the screen you'll find our phone numbers, email address, you'll find our WhatsApp number, so we can reply you instantly. And feel free to send your questions to us, and we will attend to them right away. So, Ife, what is sexual abuse?
Okay, first off, to start with, what is abuse? It is often said that if the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. So abuse is the misuse of a substance or a situation. Sexual abuse is any action that coerces or pressures a person to engage in an unwanted sexual activity that is without consent.
Okay. Toby, what are the causes or the triggers of sexual abuse?
All right. I would like to say, firstly, I think there is what is called misinformation globally now. Now you see guys, males, thinking that every female they come around would love to have sex with them. That's misinformation. You see people thinking that once I can walk up to a lady and say anything to them to trigger their interest, then I can sleep with them. And as a result of that, leads to abuse, which is very, very wrong. And so you can see guys now today, they just tell you, don't worry, if I go to that lady and I pour down some words, some lines, she's going to agree to my words. And as a result of, and you hear things like that. And that leads to sexual abuse. And so that is very, very important. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed. Then also, I also think that lust is also very important. If I may look at the scripture a little bit, the Bible tells us about the story of Timi and Amnon. You look at that situation, it was a situation of lust. At the initial, the guy thought that, oh, I love this girl. And as a result of that, he felt like, okay, let me just do it. Let me go in, sleep with her, then maybe my love for her will increase. But it was actually wrong because it was lost. Because after this guy had sex with the lady, the Bible told us that he actually dumped the lady. She was abused. She was abused, so that's lost. So lost is also a major cause of sexual abuse. You see a lady, you see her curves, oh, this girl is fine. And the next thing is, oh, I need to do something. And from there, the guy moves and abuses the lady. So those are causes. And another thing also, I also think the lack of respect can also lead to sexual abuse. When you don't respect your fellow being, whether male or female, you just go ahead and abuse them, thinking that, oh, if I do this, she will be cool, he will be cool with it, which is wrong. So lack of respect is also there. And we can also look at environmental factors. Environmental factors. Someone grows up from an environment that, permit me, I don't want to use a place in Lagos State. And they say that, oh, once I'm grown up from that area, then I can do anything, then I can get down with it, then it's fine with me, which is wrong. So environmental factor can also lead to sexual abuse. Where you grow up from, your upbringing can also, for example, we have heard of people who were abused when they were younger, and by the time they grow older, they also try to abuse people. And it's as a result of their upbringing, environmental factors.
Okay, so we can say that family unit is that from the family unit it grows. So, Dr. Timi, what is the professional approach to sexual abuse, and then what triggers it, and how can we approach it carefully and also get a solution for it?
Okay, I think first of all, it's a very interesting topic we've taken out because it's something very universal. It's not limited to any culture. It's not, in fact, recent statistics told us that 1 in every 5 women in the U.S. is a victim of rape or sexual violence. Wow. So if that is happening in a civilized community, how much more in Africa, Asia, and so many other developing countries? So we have to understand, first of all, that the definition or the space of sexual abuse is not limited to a community. Okay. It's not peculiar to us. That's why. And also, I love it when Ife was explaining what sexual abuse means, and she was saying that it is when you take advantage of someone. And I think it's important that we begin to explain what it means to actually take advantage of someone. For example, first, there is a law that says that minors are not expected to have sex or sexual relationship. Now, in Africa, in Nigeria, for example, minors tend from the age of 18. Okay, so 18 downwards are not supposed to have sex. So any kind of sexual encounter with such a person, a minor, is an abuse of sex, the misuse of sex, like she has explained. And another thing is that it's sad that so many people do not know that what happened to them was an abuse. Or so they thought sometimes because you didn't complain, or because you didn't report, or because you didn't shout, you didn't call for help, it means it was okay, it means it was all right. No, and that's why we have a lot of men, also boys, who were abused, but they never knew it was an abuse. So abuse stems from anything that is not consensual. Okay, abuse could be harassment. Abuse could be even it could be verbal. If you talk about my sexual body, or if you talk about my sexuality in an insulting way, that's sexual abuse. So it's not only penetrative sex. Not only that is an abuse. Abuse could be the moment you are feeling uncomfortable. Someone makes you feel uncomfortable sexually. Okay? Maybe the way they looked at you, the way they talked to you, the way they touched you, and then it stems. There are so many places where we could check out what sexual abuse actually could look like. And talking about recovery, talking about triggers, talking about, there are so many things. Like he had given us good background into some of the causes of it. And probably just to add to those causes is also the place of information. Okay, whereby someone thinks they have a right over the other person. So I feel that if I'm a man or if I'm a woman, the moment I'm superior to you, then I have a right over your body. So you have females who abuse males because they have authority over that guy. Okay. And so you have the same thing, maybe the male, because he has authority over or is superior to the female. Yes, it doesn't mean that age do not abuse one another. Yes, they do. Even someone younger to you can abuse you. Yes, as long as there is a factor of superiority. The other person is superior in one thing. It could be financial. Okay, it could be position. Okay, it could be so many things. But once you sense that you are not sexually comfortable with what happened, then it is an abuse. You have been misused, you have been mishandled, you have been polluted one way or the other. And this is the sad part of it. Sexual abuse oftentimes goes on to become what we call sexual trauma. And that's why it's important that we're having this conversation about recovery. Because trauma means an inner wound. It's a wound, it's there. So once it happened, the person has been hit and the person has been damaged. The person needs to heal. If they do not heal and they cover it up, ripple effect of abuse plays out in their regular day life.
Okay, so that would bring me to the point where, who do you think an abused person should speak to? And how do you think they can get help? Because there's this norm where abused people don't even want to talk about it. So personally for me, I'm a lot particular about people speaking up to get help. So what do you think makes people not talk about it? And who do you think they can speak to? Because I believe they can't speak to just any random person. So Ife, what do you think?
Yes, I think people find it difficult to speak up because of stigmatization. You know, the society these days, they stigmatize those that speak up. And it's not only to the society alone, even the church, you know, the workplace, everywhere. So people are afraid of being stigmatized. so they don't speak up. But I believe that speaking up is the first step to recovery. So it's important to speak to somebody, most importantly, a trained counselor, someone who has been trained to help in the process of recovery. So it's very important for people to speak up. It's very, very important, both males and females. We see more of females speaking up these days because the society is coming around to understand the fact that these people need to speak up. But we have the males, a bit more, quiet about it because they feel, how will it sound? How does it look that how can a man come out to say, I was abused by a female, But it is important, no matter what, to speak out. We have, counselors, we have trained counselors, as you said earlier on when introducing Dr. Timi, that, there's a counseling outfit where people can go to, like the Attitude Development International. We have counselors all around who can help.
Even the Pastor Seeds family today has trained counselors that actually can help.
Yes, and then, a problem shared is a problem half solved. You can start from there.
So, for the sake of this conversation, Dr. Timi, what do you think the church can do to people that have been abused and how they can help them such that the pain of the trauma won't be so much, so that they can heal?
I think the first thing when it comes to the church is to be able to have this kind of conversations that we're having today. Okay, whereby we start talking about it on the altar, start talking about abuse, start telling victims to speak out. And when it comes from the altar, the people are more open to come out to talk.
True. That's true.
Okay, and then creating and enhancing and empowering the counseling team of the church. And that's one of my core interests. So far so good, which is going around training counseling teams, because I believe counseling stems from the church, even professional counseling. And so it's important that the church learns to adopt it again in a more professional way. And this is very possible, this is obtainable, just like you mentioned earlier, training the counseling teams to know what to do once someone comes in and talks about sexual abuse, to know how to handle it, to know who to report it to know how to get help for the person, and then how to take the person through the journey of recovery. These are core important procedures. And I think where conflict usually comes in, especially for church bureaucracy, is reporting to a superior, because the counselors has an code of confidentiality they had to keep to. And that's where the crisis might be, because you have a bureaucracy or a system where you need to tell the next person, and so the person coming to meet you at the counseling unit is wondering, if I tell you what happened to me, who else will hear about it? So there's this fear that it's going to spread.
Or going to become a message in the church.
Yeah. So once that has been resolved, once that reassurance that come often from the altar to the people in the parish, in the congregation, they'll feel more comfortable to look for help or to come in and talk about it. Now, like we have said, also that's for the church. But for the individual themselves, there are core principles to recovery. And like Ife had mentioned, the need for them to speak out. But before even speaking out, I think the first most important thing to recovery is that the victim should acknowledge that they are wounded. They need to accept and say, oh yes, this happened to me and this was wrong. What this person did to me was wrong. So they needed to accept that first, accept what happened. Some try to block it off. Some even tell themselves it never happened. Some try to move on and just never talked about it. So they needed to come back to that realization that it happened when, and then to speak out. Speaking out involves speaking out to a trusted person. Talk to someone you trust, and preferably talk to a professional counselor. The reason for a professional, not just your friend, not just somebody who tells you I'm a counselor, is because a professional has been trained on how to help you, even with the disclosure, even with narrative about what happened to you. Because sometimes when you are talking about what happened to you, the images, the memories can bring in more pain. I usually explain that recovery is very possible, accepted, but recovery is painful.
It's painful.
So I won't tell you, oh, it's going to be very easy, you're going to heal very fast, you're just going to be fine by tomorrow. No, it's a process. And once you embark on that, take that second step, which is to talk to somebody, preferably somebody who understands how to help you. And thirdly, grieve your loss. Grieve what happened to you. Grieve the innocence you lost when that thing happened. Grieve Cry over it. It's okay to cry, even if it happened 20 years ago. Research has told us that event that happens even 50 years ago, the mind still sees it as if it just happened yesterday.
So fresh, yes.
It's still very fresh.
Yeah.
So grieve your loss, and then of course the next thing, count your gains.
Count your gains.
In every case of abuse, in every case of pain, there's still a lesson to learn there.
Count your blessings.
There's still a lesson, there's still a blessing, there's still a gain. It might be tough for you right now, thinking about like, so what did I gain from what happened to me? But if you look at it very well, you could have learned a lesson. It could be the lesson of not to be alone with somebody you don't know. It could be a lesson of don't trust. Even, you know, it's something, somebody could say, oh, the abuse that happened to me made me to understand how to protect children. You learned something from what happened to you. So look for what you learned from it. And of course, I would always say again also is reconnect with your body. Usually for victims of sexual abuse, there's a detachment. Some even will not like themselves anymore. Some would think they are ugly. Some would start blaming themselves, and so they disconnect. And usually that's why they have a lot of sexual problems. So some could become hypersexual, some hyposexual, some don't even want to get into sexual things anymore, some could become frigid. A lot of things could happen. So it's important that the victim understands that they need to reconnect with their body. They need to be able to look at themselves, look at their body, appreciate their body, and know that the person who saw them, who tried to abuse them, was the one who had the problem, not him or her. Okay, so it's important they have that. And sometimes I usually teach that one of the ways to reconnect with the body is to move in rhythms. Okay, maybe dance, you know, or just move, look at yourself and move in rhythms. It helps you to appreciate yourself. And of course, also, I would always say, forgive yourself,
of course,
forgive the abuser, and forgive God. See,
forgive God.
Forgiveness, when it comes to the issue of recovery, I usually put it last. The reason, also, of course, a lot of people will say that should come first. But the truth is, when a victim has not gone on the journey of healing, forgiveness is very difficult. And when we just say in the church, we say, go and forgive. You know, you should forgive. Yes, they have to forgive. That's the truth. But forgiveness is also a choice they have to make. And that could be depriving them of their pain or rubbishing their pain. So let them go through their process. Let them get to understand why they need to forgive, and teach them practical steps. Not just say go and forgive. There are practical steps towards forgiveness. And I said forgiving God.
Yes.
Because a lot of victims actually also blame God. Where was God when I was going through all of this? For years, I blamed God. Personally, I detached from God. I even said to God, because I begged him, I prayed. I had times when I will pray, I will go naked, I will be crying, and I'll be saying, God, if you truly exist, make sure this man doesn't come tonight. Make sure this man doesn't come. And it seems as if God wants on sabbatical all through. So for years, I had this anger against God. That you allowed what happened to me, so fine, let it be. And that's the same thing with so many people out there also. But I had to understand that, yeah, God allowed it, but there was a purpose for it. Which is the last point I always make. There's a purpose for your pain. Everything you ever went through, there's a reason for it. You might not comprehend it when you are going through it. You know, it took me years, and it took God taking me to that space of telling me, Timi, I was there with you. I was there in your journey. I knew what happened to you. I allowed it to happen because I wanted to use you. So whatever you had also been through, for every victim, and I always say to them, you are not even a victim, because victims are dead and in the graves. Because the fact that you survived it means that you are a survivor, you are a victor. That's the word.
So that's the narrative. Learn to realize that you're a victor if you've been through this. You can go on and on and on to share stories of how people have recovered. I remember for myself, I was 29 when I was first abused. I wasn't a child. So adults can get abused.
Exactly.
And then but along the line, I spoke to someone to help me. And today, we're here sharing about this because I discovered that the reason for the pain I went through is so that people coming after me won't go through it. And what we're doing today is to lend an helping hand to everybody out there. Whatever it is you have gone through, you can recover. It is possible.
Yes.
And we're here to be of help to you. But then, Toby, what do you think about men that are abused?
Wow. Just like Ife was mentioning earlier, In the world now, you hardly see men say that, oh, I was abused or something. Why? Because we feel like, oh, the ego is there. Just like Dr. Timi was saying earlier, there's that information of male higher than the female, kind of. So guys always tell you that, oh, I cannot do it. She is me now. The ego is there. So you probably won't want to talk. You probably won't just want to keep it. I can go over it myself. Don't worry. You know, people say over time, your pain will heal. Yeah, you just get healed, and which is not true. So you say, oh, don't worry. After a while, let me just keep it to myself. After 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, I will just be fine. I'll move on with myself. But the truth is, that was wrong. That is wrong. So I think the ego of men will just prevent them from speaking up. How will I go and speak? For example, I say, oh, I'm a guy, and I want to go and speak to Dr. Timi. What will I tell her? And that somebody tried to touch me, this, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't do that. I said, feel the ego is there. Yeah. And I think that's very, very important.
Okay, so that's to show us that men, boys get abused. Yes. And for the boys, parenting, parents should always be mindful of the boy child as well, not just the girl child. Because a lot of boy child has been abused until they have become homosexuals because it has been done the wrong way by a male. So I'm saying that when a male abuses a male boy child, that's where it leads to, and then the female the other way. So, but the point is, because for men, we are not, we're emotional, but we don't always want to talk about it. We are not expressive. It doesn't mean that we don't have pains or we don't feel things. But then, if you have to cry as a guy, please cry in your room. If you feel you don't want to cry outside, cry in your room, grieve properly in your closet, but come out healed and come out stronger. Some of us have been through that part, and that's what we're saying today, that even men, boy, child, can get help. And even for the church too, the church has gotten to a point where we're speaking and saying that help is available for everyone that needs it. Now, Dr. Timi, I would like to ask, is it possible, or what can we do when the abuse is from the church?
Okay, well, when the abuse is from the church, in other words, we're saying if it's a church leader or a pastor, that you have abused the person. Yes. Now, that is a bit, you see, that's why it's a bit complex, because the person who's supposed to be a savior or who's supposed to be the helper, now becoming the abuser. Exactly. And usually, what I recommend always is we need to speak out. If your abuse happened in the church, then speak out even to other people, because the person who abused you is not the only person in the church. I've had clients who had said to me at the church where they had this kind of caucus, you can't report Mr. Hay or Pastor Hay because Pastor B is also doing the same thing. So if you report Pastor B, it's still, you know. And this is the point. People need to understand that sexual abuse is a defilement of their body, not just their body, their spirit and their soul. I don't know how it happened, but God so much connected our sexuality to our identity. And so, anyone who sexually abuses you or disrespects you sexually is disrespecting the God over your life, is disrespecting your identity, and is trashing you down. So, if it happens and you are in that setting whereby it's your leader, then you need to get out of that setting.
Change
you need to get out of that setting. Go out to somebody else who could be of help to you. And that's why oftentimes I would always recommend, you know, it's going to a therapist. You know what a therapist could help you to do? Is that it could help you manage the scandal, so it doesn't become scandalous, which is why a lot of people don't want to talk. Oh, before you know it now, they will put my name on this. They will say, I'm trying to pull that pastor down. They will say, I'm trying to destroy that man of God. But when you go into therapy, the therapist will help you to understand and to find the best approach to confront or to address or to put the person to order. And remember also, I would always say this to everyone who is going through that in the church system, please know that by keeping quiet, you are not only keeping yourself. You are not the only person this person is doing this thing to. If you speak out, you'll be saving so many other people. There's so many other people. So always remember that it's not just about you. And that the person who is also the abuser is also a victim, and he also needs help. Maybe you need to see it from that angle. If a pastor is sexually abusing you, then you need to know that your pastor needs help. If not, he will not make heaven. You need him to make heaven, then you need to speak out, so that he too can get the help, the correction, the rebuke, and the support he will need. to heal. Now, maybe where the challenge also could be is then when we now make the whole thing, bring everything out there, how do we do it that we do not rusticate, we do not send people away, we do not...
Exactly. I was going to say that because somebody will say, I cannot help my pastor. Exactly. He's the pastor. So why should I speak up to help my pastor?
But for me, I feel that at the end of the day, the raped and the rapist both need help.
Yes.
And if you see it that way, and if you understand that God is really not a respecter of persons,
at all,
and that everybody needs help,
at all,
and the main goal is that we are saved and we make heaven, then we'll be able to speak up and say, okay, I think this person needs help, but do it in a very matured way. Speak to somebody you know can speak to the pastor,
yes,
and the pastor will get help,
yes,
and then it won't be a church evening news, you know, because at the end of the day, who has not sinned before should cast the first stone. So everybody has done a thing or the other before. We all need help. So the truth is, there's a way we manage this crisis. So, Dr. Timi, do you want to expound on this? How we manage this crisis?
Oh, to manage this crisis, I would always suggest that the church should let the counseling team get involved. First of all, let these people, these individuals, let them submit themselves to the support from counseling. The counseling unit in the church is not equipped, okay, please let counselors get trained. It's no more time for us as a church to say, oh, we can do it anyhow. No, it's no longer that season. Now is the time for the church to stand on their toes, be responsible, and do the right thing. Get your people trained. Let them have this knowledge of what to do. Once that is there, abuse then could be determined by what's actually happening.
Well, that's true.
So is it an adult? Is it a child? If it's a child, for example, if it's a minor, the law requires that you must make it official. You must make a formal report. Yes, because so that you could prevent the person from abusing other children. Remember this saying that a repaired adulthood is much difficult than a sustained childhood. So if we preserve the child, we might protect a lot of other people from getting into that circle.
That's true.
So for the church system to get it right, I would always suggest these procedures. Let them get the help that is needful. And maybe because we're talking about pastors, but it's not just pastors. It could just even be the music leader, the choir leader. It could be
head of department.
It could be head of department. It could be a brother in fellowship that you just answer to, or you just, whoever it is, the person needs help. And if the person is not responding or is arrogant, then the disciplinary actions come in. But this is the core thing, so that we don't destroy people more. Most people who are struggling with sexual behaviors, with sexual struggles, I mean abusers now, we need to understand that they need help. I'm emphasizing that also. The victim needs help. I won't take that away. I was a victim myself before I become a victor. Okay, so I understand the pain of every victim. I understand sometimes why we want to see our abusers also punished. Okay, but I also know the importance of everybody healing and the ripple effect of healing and recovery. Once we can focus on that, once we are not just about killing, maiming, destroying, crucify him. Once we are about, he needs help. He needs help. He needs help. We would do a lot more, and the church would be a much more wonderful place.
Okay, so eventually, at the end of the day, wherever you are all over the world, help is made available. Recovery is very possible. We can go. We would have loved to go on and on and on, but we don't have the luxury of time. So I would like that you refer to the phone numbers on the screen, the email address, and the WhatsApp. We would reply instantly, and of course, we would connect you to counselors all over the world that can get you help. By God's grace, we're all certified professional counselors here. By God's grace, we have been trained, and there's space to train more people. It's been a wonderful time having this discussion. Ife, thank you for coming. Toby, thank you for your time. Dr. Timi, we're grateful. Thank you for being here with us. And to the leadership of the Pastor Seeds family, thank you for making this available as well. It's been a wonderful time. I'm sure you've learned something. Please stay tuned, connect with us for the rest of the program. God bless you.